All right. What's up, brother?
How we doing, Mace?
I think we are live. We are live. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Breathing Air podcast where everyday action meets extraordinary mindset. Today we have a special guest. He has been a graduate assistant for student athlete development at Arizona State University. He has done inside sales with the Los Angeles Clippers, player personnel with the Los Angeles Rams. He was a director of recruiting for Grand Canyon University for the rugby team there. He has a master's from Arizona State, a sports management bachelor's from Lindenwood, my proud alum, and was also now the new CEO and founder of Bottle Opener Podcast. That's a mouthful. What's up, brother?
How we doing? That's a hell of a rap sheet. I feel like I
Dude,
need to have you around to introduce me more often.
I know. Yeah, just wherever I go, have like a script that I just pull out
Yeah.
and read, like old times. No, man, that's a mouthful, but that just goes to show all the experience that you've had over the last couple of years. So I'm super excited to have you on, and excited for your new journey with your podcast too. You wanna kind of elaborate a little bit on what that is going to be like, what it's going to be about, how the idea came about?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the plug. I've kind of had the idea for a while, but I've been making excuses, and fortunately, given the whole quarantine situation, I was kind of able to just dive into it. I mean, I'm really lucky to have that time, and I'm definitely making the most of it. But the reason I wanted to get behind it is like over the last, as I say, nearly a decade, I've had the good fortune to like live in so many different places and just meet so many people. And I've found the common trend is that every single person you meet has a unique story or a unique knowledge that I otherwise didn't know. Like I've learned so much from people. And so I wanted to develop a platform for people that otherwise don't have a platform or don't utilize their platform to get those stories out or get their knowledge out. And I figured, why not do it for them, I guess, and have them on the podcast and enable those stories to get out. My dad put it really well. He said to everyone on from the janitor to the CEO. And so, yeah, that's the plan with it. And then the bottle opener, obviously, it's one of those things that you kind of have to think about, but without a bottle opener, you don't have a lot of those great conversations,
Right.
a lot of those great stories over a bottle of beer or a bottle of wine. So without the bottle opener, you've got to open that conversation. You've got to open that bottle. You've got to open that experience. So I decided on the bottle opener. Yeah, the podcast is not about alcohol, but um,
Yeah.
alcohol always helps a great conversation. So yes, I said on the bottle opener. I think this weekend I'm going to record a couple of episodes just so I've got a couple there, and then I'll start launching them early next week. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I'm
There you
sure we'll
go.
definitely help advertise for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I just liked how it kind of correlated with, like those conversations, people get a little loose and start saying things that they maybe wouldn't say.
Right.
So it's like they're opening up, but the bottle opener also kind of signifies that. I thought that was kind of cool little play on words.
Definitely.
So we'll start here. So obviously, if people haven't caught on already, you have a little bit of an accent to you. So tell us a little bit about your childhood. Where you're from, and kind of just what life was like growing up.
Yeah, no, it was definitely different. I didn't appreciate it at the time until I moved to America and, realized that just being in a different geographical location means so many differences. Um,
Mhm.
but no, I grew up, I was born in Auckland, New Zealand, and then through dad's work, I moved out to Jakarta in Indonesia and bounced around the Southeast Asia sort of area. Um, at the time, I just wanted to be a normal kid, and that was kind of tough. I started school at an international school, so I was around other internationals living in Indonesia, but um, I guess I just wanted that sort of normal life where I didn't really get it. I was the white kid living in an Asian country. So
Right.
you're always treated a little differently and
Stuck out like
everything.
a sore thumb.
Absolutely. And blonde hair, blue eyes as well. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, but I moved back to New Zealand. Still, I was pretty young. I think I was about 6 when I moved back, 6 or 7 when I moved back. Um, and then, yeah, we moved to a little town called Wanganui again for work and grew up there. Something that's a bit unique for Americans is I went to boarding school for high school. Not because I was a bad kid. Boarding schools are really popular in New Zealand. A lot of the like private schools are boarding schools. It's kind of mirrored off the English education system. So Yeah, I went to boarding school for all of high school, which was really cool. It's, I wouldn't change that for the world. Being an only child, I was fortunate to, be around a lot of people in that sense. I never felt like I was an only child because I was living with, brothers in the boarding house. And so that was awesome. I loved growing up in New Zealand because New Zealand's one of those countries that it's kind of required to get out and be rough and live in the wild a little bit. And part of my school curriculum actually was I had to spend a month up living in cabins up in the bush where we went like hiking and did a solo. So you like go camping on your own.
Explain what up in the bush is.
Oh yeah, so like up in like the mountains, there's a lot of rural area in New Zealand. Like it's a very spread out country. We're not very populous dense, so there's a lot of areas you can just go and get out. And fortunately, in New Zealand, there's no predators, so like you're not worried about snakes,
That's
scorpions.
crazy. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
there's no mountain lions. There's no nothing that's gonna hurt you. So you fortunately can just like go and camp and just
Why is that? Why is
I mean, good border control, I guess, border security. But it's an island, so it's hard. Like they don't
Right, that's what I
migrate into the
figured.
country or anything. So
Yeah.
anything that's coming in has got to come by boat or plane, and you just make sure it doesn't come in. So I think part of it I don't know, might sound uneducated here, but I know that our climate's kind of unique because our agriculture industry is really good because our climate's kind of perfect for farming. So yeah,
Right. Go ahead.
yeah, so going back to what I was talking about, like the getting out in the wild, you can kind of do it with no fear of running into something you don't want to run into. So it's an absolute luxury, yeah. And I'm fortunate that I kind of got to grow up in that environment that you can just go down to the local river and go swimming, and you're not worried about moccasins or anything. You're just swimming. So it's an
That's
absolute
awesome.
blessing to grow up in that kind of country, and it molded me into the guy I am today, for sure. And I guess I didn't really appreciate it at the time, but that's as per everything in life, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. There's things when you're younger, growing up, like, adolescent, and you have those experiences, and at the time it may be like the end of the world. You're like, no, why is this happening to me? But in reality, you look back, 10 years from now, we're starting to become, or we're young adults, starting to come into our own. And it's like, wow, those things that I hated so much then kind of helped shape me into who I am now, which,
Oh, absolutely.
it's a blessing. That was kind of how I was
I,
too, moving around a lot. I was like, I hated it. I resented my dad for it at times, but I was at that weird sixth, seventh, eighth grade, trying to make friends, doing that kind of stuff. But looking back now, it's helped me in the business world, and it's helped me just as a rounded individual to be able to talk and speak to a lot of different people and be able to adapt quickly. So,
100%. At
yeah.
my boarding school, it was required that we had to be in plays, we had to sing in front of the school, we had to play an instrument, we had to like learn a language, we had to run athletics, do cross country, had to do like different all the different sports and everything. And like looking back on it, I remember having to learn lines for a play, and I'm like a pretty guy's guy sort of thing. Like I'm not a artsy sort of dude. I can't draw to save my life. I'm a terrible singer. And so when I was like learning lines for a play, I remember complaining to my parents like nothing. I was just like, why? Like I do not care. And they're like, well, you got to do it. You got to do it, Jay. Feel like that's my parents' mantra is you got to do it. Just get over it.
Yeah.
So I remember learning it, and then like looking back on it, when people like being a bartender now as well, people like mention something, and I'm fortunate that I kind of have a base knowledge of a lot of random shit. And
Yeah.
so from doing things like that, like I know about Shakespeare, I've been in a few plays and things. So yeah, like you said, it's a lot of those random things that you hate doing at the time, and you just think it's so dumb. And then you look back a few years later and you're like, I'm kind of glad I did that. Kind of glad I went on stage and was an actor.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's weird. I mean, those are things that you don't even think about that come back, and then they create that connection with somebody that you may have not been able to spark that conversation if you didn't have that weird little experience with it, and
Yeah,
that could lead something, that could lead to something down the line. It's such a connection based world we live in. But
everything.
so I know that you're kind of prepping. We've talked slightly about it before the show, but you're kind of prepping for a TED Talk. Tell me a little bit about, how that came about and what what that's kind of going to be centered around?
Yeah, so I mean, the TED Talk's going to be a very small part of it, I believe. The plan is to be able to develop this platform for not just student athletes, but athletes kind of, obviously the goal is Arizona and then nationwide. We want to make it as big as possible, but I can't take all the claim. It's like I can explain what Alonzo Jones, I'll talk about in a second, has done, but I'm kind of building on what he's already started. But Alonzo Jones is the director of championship life here at Arizona State, and what he's done, he's developed an identity matrix for student athletes, and basically what that is talking in depth about how you change as a person when you move into different realms or different universes as a student athlete. Fortunately, I'm talking to an ex-student athlete, so it's probably easy for you to pick up. But
Right.
When you're an athlete in school, you're not just an athlete, and wherever you are, you're never just an athlete. You're also a son or a daughter, a father and mother, brother, sister, etc. And on top of that, you're an athlete, you're a student, you're a friend, and you're a person.
Right.
And each time you move through those different identities, you change a little bit, and your goals change, your aspirations change, your behaviors change. To put it in an example, when you're on the field, all you're thinking about is completing passes. That's all you're worried about. You're not thinking about your girlfriend. You're not thinking about the party later that night. But sometimes you do. And sometimes the issues that you've got to deal with about those identities and how they change who you are. And if you blur them, trouble can occur. And so that's what Alonzo Jones, or we call AJ, he's developed. And it's a phenomenal platform. We kind of present it to incoming student athletes at ASU. And then he's kind of brought me in because of my passion with mental health and mental performance. And so my job, which I'm working on right now with the help of one of my best friend's wives, Skylar Fairley, who's a therapist, we're basically developing some sort of behavioral techniques or trainings, etc., where you can help when you're molding and jumping through those different identities. How can you best manage your mental health and not let that bleed over? The big one I use is how quickly, if you get dropped from the team or something, you get put into second string, you're frustrated, you're pissed off. So you go home, and then next minute your girlfriend keeps calling you, and you're just like, I don't want to talk to anyone right now. Like, I'm pissed off.
Right.
And so you're angry about that, and you're not answering your girlfriend. Next minute she's blowing up your phone and yelling at you too. You're going, two of my worlds are collapsing right now. I'm annoyed. And so you spend all night frustrated. So you don't take your quiz and dance to 11. And so next minute you're failing classes, your girlfriend hates you, and you're second string on the team in a matter of hours. That's terrifying. Your life can turn upside down so quickly. And if you don't have those coping mechanisms to then isolate each one of those identities and say, look, I was dropped from the team. That's fine. When I leave the field, I'm now a boyfriend, or when I leave the field, I'm now son or student, etc. And being able to isolate those identities without structurally disassociating yourself. So it's not an easy thing to do. I don't think student athletes get enough credit for the life you've got to live. It's not even like, oh, you chose to do that. It's like, kind of, I'm getting free college. Some of them, this isn't all the time. This is
right.
D1 universities, sure, but even it's your life. Like it is your identity. And so then the other thing that kind of molds to is post sports, when you create a new identity, and like you know all about that firsthand. It's not easy, eh? Like, you spend your entire life as a quarterback. That's who you are.
Right.
And fortunately tight end as well. And so, but that football player, that's who you are. And then all of a sudden you graduate and you go, whoa, I guess I'm an employee now. Like, how do you change those identities? So that's what we're working on. And once we really get it kind of fine-tuned and made sure that we're doing the right things, mental health is so delicate. And I don't want for 1 second to be saying the wrong things or telling people the wrong things. So I want to make sure it's perfect before we start presenting. But yeah. And also, I don't know what's happening with coronavirus. We don't know if anything's going ahead anytime soon. So yeah, a lot of study going on right now, but that's the plan for going forward for it, and trying to develop something to help people. I mean, that's why we're here.
Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's super relevant for a lot of people. I mean, you have student athletes, whether you're a Division I or you're across the board. I mean, people who have played college athletics are most likely playing for years and years and years and years. And like you said, life seems really simple because it's, well, looking back, it seemed really simple at the time. You think you got all these problems, but it's like that is your life's work up until that moment. And then when that's taken from you, because it's taken so fast, you don't even, it's a blink of the eye, and then you're graduating from college, or maybe football doesn't work out for you, or whatever sport you're playing doesn't work out for you. And then it's, onto the real world. So injuries can happen too. It's one of those things that can be taken from you quick, and it is easy to build your identity around that. I know personally for me, it was definitely something that I put all my work and time and effort into to be the best player I could be. So that was something that was, the basis of my life. Like, I was eating and working out and doing all these things for that. And that's a 24/7 thing when you're playing college athletics. There's no off season really. So I definitely think that that's a good cause, and that transition can be difficult at first. I think it definitely was for me my first year out, just trying to find that identity, and like, what are you going to build yourself off of now? Because you were a football player, but now what are you? Now what do you want to, hang your hat on? What do you want people to know you as? Because you're no longer a football player. No, 2 years from now, no one cares if I play football anymore. Doesn't matter. It may help you off the jump to get in the door somewhere, and I think that there's a lot of crossover when it comes to business and sports, to be able to like take that team atmosphere and have a bunch of different people from a bunch of different backgrounds all coming together for a common goal, which is a business or a corporation at the end of the day.
Oh,
But
100%.
yeah,
There's so many correlate. I know that when I'm in a position of hiring, if you have an athlete on your resume in any way, you're getting an extra notch. And I don't mean to talk down on non-athletes or anything. I'm not saying that's just like you have to be an athlete, but you get an extra notch. I know that you understand punctuality, you understand working as a team, you understand getting critiqued. These little things that definitely correlate over. And I've noticed, obviously I'm a bartender manager I was before we all shut down, but I noticed that like the employees on roster that are ex-athletes just have, you can tell, you can tell the difference. And like you kind of alluded to, it does correlate over to business, or, anything you do, any sort of professional development. If you've got that ability to work, you're essentially, you know how to work for someone. You work for your coach every day.
right.
And then, yeah, so anytime I'm hiring, I'm thinking, I want someone that knows that when you say you got to be at work at 8, that means 7:55. So
Right.
it'd
So
be like the
speaking on
second
sports
language
though,
of sports.
yeah, exactly. And speaking on sports, I know that you are a rugby player, or a rugby player, but you're still, surrounded in that culture, and like you have a passion for the sport. So tell me a little bit about your journey with rugby, and did that lead you to Lindenwood in the first place? Or
Yeah,
how did
yeah,
that whole
yeah.
thing
So
happen?
I started playing rugby when I was 4. So it was my whole life. And I played all the way up, and kind of still playing. Our season kind of got canned recently. But so yeah, I played all through high school. And then I was like on representative teams in my area, kind of like state here. It's a different sort of setup, but I was playing like you're like named from your high school team to play for
Right.
those representative
Right.
sites. And then yeah, when I came out of when I was coming to the end of high school, I got selected to play for the Hurricanes Academy squad, and which is like the equivalent of like the NFL sort of like mini camp or whatever. You're not like on the starting roster or anything, but
Right.
you're like getting looked at. And so I was playing in a couple of tournaments with that side, and unfortunately went through a few different injuries and everything. And so I knew that I wanted to go to America, but I was kind of on that tightrope between, do I focus on my career or do I focus on rugby? And New Zealand being, I mean, I'd attest to argue the best rugby country in the world, it is where I'd need to be if I wanted to go further in rugby. And so obviously after a couple of injuries, I had that conversation with my dad, who was like, it's education time, buddy. Like, we need to hang out the boots. You're not going to be LeBron James of rugby anytime soon. So,
Right.
yeah, so I was like looking to come to America, but dad said, you're not going to America unless it's paid for, because I'm not forking out to go there because I couldn't get student loans or anything over here. So I was kind of putting my feelers out to a few coaches and everything out here and got a few offers. But at Lindenwood, they offered a full ride, just given how good Lindenwood is as a rugby school. So being D1 for rugby and everything. So they offered me a full ride, and I kind of packed up and moved my ass to St. Louis, Missouri, which looking back on it, I don't know what I was thinking. And I remember being so excited. Like I had no qualms in it. Like I was like 100%. Yeah. No, why would I not?
Yeah.
But like looking back on it, that's it. That was a huge move to make. But I moved out there and was immediately adopted by the boys. It was a really cool culture. I know you had a good relationship with the rugby team as well, but we had such a good vibe out there. And it was in my head, I remember I was going out there like, oh, I'm going to play rugby in America. Like it'll be pretty chill. Like I'll be able to like tear it up. Yeah. And I get to Lindenwood and no way. These guys at Lindenwood were the real deal.
Yeah.
Like there was some talent on that roster. And so I remember I was like, damn, I'm like playing rugby again. I was like, I'm going to stay in shape. I got to eat right. And I was coming over here to like just to focus on education. And I kind of had thought rugby was over for me. So Lindenwood was great. Playing for such a highly ranked team in the country was really cool, and gave me a few perks, going into my future as well, just in the rugby community. When you say Lindenwood, it's like saying like Alabama, LSU, Clemson sort of thing.
Football. And that's crazy. That's the crazy thing. Yeah.
And so, I'm really blessed that I did choose Lindenwood. I wouldn't change it for the world. And seeing all the boys now playing in the MLR, the Major League Rugby, like they're killing it, eh? Like it's just good to see the boys out there doing their thing. And no, I'm stoked I chose Lindenwood. And then I took a couple of years off when I graduated college, because I was like focusing on my career and everything. I moved out to LA, and then I moved to Arizona, and I just started missing it like crazy. And so I play now for Red Mountain Rugby, which is a club out here. And then I was talking to an old coach of mine, and we're spitballing going back. Do I want to go play Major League Rugby in Atlanta with him? But then coronavirus hit, and now all these opportunities are kind of getting shut down because the league's not happening. I'm not even playing anymore, but it's been good to get back out there. I've had a really good season with Red Mountain. We had a lot of fun, and I've loved playing rugby. It's been a whirlwind career. It's unlike a lot of people that are like focused on rugby. Mine's kind of been like, I was focused on rugby, then went to focus on my career, and then a little bit of rugby, and then back onto my career. Now I'm back to rugby.
Right.
So it's like my identity's been like switching on and off from rugby player to like career guy.
Right. I know. I remember always, even back in school, and like you said, I had a great relationship with a lot of those guys. We have a lot of great memories with those guys. But it is crazy, I had heard of rugby because actually where I was from in Eureka, it was kind of getting decently popular. Like
Eureka's a good amount of
team. Yeah, there was a good amount of guys on that team that I was buddies with that were playing. So I was somewhat familiar with it. Never myself did I play, but yeah, when you watch those boys at Lindenwood play, what do you like better? So for those of you who don't know, there's 11s and 7s, correct?
15s and 7s.
15s. Okay, so there's 15s and 7s. What do you think is better? Because I know like the 7s, you got all speed, like a lot of speed.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's as big as a soccer field, right?
Yeah. No, I love the opportunity to explain the two as well.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It gets confusing.
Right.
But 7s and 15s, the obvious one is there's 7 people on the field versus 15. In 7s, it's a lot faster. Obviously, you've got a lot more room to go. And at the breakdown, you've got like when a guy gets tackled, there's less people there. So you got to be quicker to the ball, get the ball out quicker. It's just a fast pace of game. Right. So you automatically rule out like all the big guys. Like they can't play. They're too slow.
Yeah, they got to run.
Right. And so it's like a quick game of rugby. And 15s is like everyone on the field. If there's 15, it's a lot more slower and a lot more, in my opinion, you need a lot more strategy in 15.
Yeah, it's meticulous.
Yeah. And so the comparison I use is 15s is like football and 7s is like flag football, like 7-on-7. Yeah. And so you roll out all the linemen, which is, in my opinion, with football, half of the fun. I love the line. And so I personally played a bit of 7s. I liked it, but I always felt like it was like a mini game of rugby. That's what I call it. It's like mini rugby. Like,
Yeah.
you know, when you're
Not
playing like Grand Theft Auto and then you like go bowling, like in the game, it's like a mini game. It's
Yeah.
not the actual game, it's a mini game.
Right.
And so that's like sevens to rugby. But I get it. Sevens is exciting. It's fun. It's quick. It's one of those sports that's like, I totally understand why people take to it so well, because it is fast. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is
But
fast.
15s is like rugby, like true blue rugby.
Yeah. So I know you had some time with the Rams, and then obviously you've been around the Arizona State program and just football in general. What's some of the differences, or some of the similarities between football and
Yeah.
rugby?
Well, I'll definitely be advertising this podcast to like my friends and stuff. So there'll probably be a few listeners from New Zealand. So
There you
I
go.
can try to explain like football as well, because for me, I've always loved football since I was a little boy, but I never had anyone in New Zealand that was remotely interested in football. So I couldn't have anyone to talk about it with. But what I really like about football is like a chess match, but with human bodies. Like, it's so strategically designed it's essentially chess. You're trying to find the next move to make. And when I fully adapted that, and that's the same with baseball. When I fully like understood the sport from that aspect, that's when I was hooked. I was like, I love this. Whereas rugby's so free flowing that you don't get to think that much. Like, you obviously you're thinking and you're trying to move the defense in a certain way to be able to make your next move. But with football, you actually have time to like think about your next move. It's more structured in that sense. And then the obvious one is collisions. We don't have padding, and in my opinion, it's far safer that way. We have to respect our bodies in rugby, and so
you can't be a flying missile.
No, if we acted like football players, would kill ourselves. Period. And so. And as a result, I don't think the pads do enough to allow football players to behave the same way. That's why you see statistically, you see a lot more head injuries in football than rugby, but you guys have helmets. It's the behavior of the game. And so I love I'm totally on board with, I don't like quarterbacks being treated like they're covered in cotton wool. I don't like, you want a little bit of collision. I get it. And I think the best way to do that is spend more time teaching tackling rather than trying to change the rules, if that makes sense. Like,
no, absolutely. And it does make sense because, it doesn't. I mean, football is a violent game. So is rugby. But like, there is things that you can do to minimize it without taking away the like core of the game, which 100%. Is like, it's a violent game, period. That's people like it because of that. We like it because of that. Like, you don't get to hit people like that outside of the game legally. Yeah. Like, my old coach used to say that it was legal assault, which, I mean, it really is. Like, you are getting smashed out there. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that the education, like you said, towards not leading with the crown and all of those rules, I think those are good implementations in the game. I think it makes it safer, but I haven't really liked, I don't know how I feel about the kickoff for turn one. It's like,
I mean, I understand the point. Like, though, it's crazy. You're running like 100% full speed.
Yeah.
That's the other thing in rugby is like, is crazy. What I get frustrated more than anything when I see defensive backs try to make a tackle for loss and come up running 100%, just trying to take someone's head off. It's the easiest thing to move around. You can juke someone running 100%.
Yeah, I mean,
so easy.
If you're not breaking down, you can make one move and make a miss.
And I don't care. In football, if I'm watching my team, I really don't care if they put in a big hit. I want to see completed tackles. I want to see a tackle for loss rather than a huge tackle for loss, which might or might not hit. Like, just slow down, catch your feet, and make a normal tackle. Because then we're making, they get in -5 yards. We're moving down the field. We're moving them back. That's what you want. There's no extra points for a big hit.
Right.
Just make the tackle.
It's so funny too, because I feel like a lot of people think that football is just like people banging their heads together, which at the end of the day that's the basis of it. But like, if you're trying to explain, say you're like on the couch Sunday you're hungover or whatever, and you're watching NFL Sunday Ticket, and you got a girl over, and you're watching, and she's asking you what's going on. This has happened to me before. I like try and break it down in this like lamest terms possible, but it's kind of hard to, as opposed to like basketball, this is a 3-pointer. If they get fouled, they shoot a free throw. This is 2 points.
Yeah.
It's like, no, all right, this is cover 2. This is the safety's doing this. Linebacker's coming here. Why did he fake the handoff and pull it out? Well, he's reading this backer. If he sucks in, then he's throwing it behind him. Or like, who are those big guys? Like, why does this big guy block and catch? And like that's, it's just, there's so many moving pieces. And like you said, it is a chess match, and there's so much strategy. And that's what's beautiful about it to me, because it is barbaric, but then there's so much mental game that goes into like being able to win like a high level football game.
They call rugby organized chaos, and I think football's the exact same way. It's really organized chaos.
Right. Yeah. No, it is. So tell me a little bit about, we talked about football versus rugby, and we kind of talked a little bit about the different cultures, but what are some of the big glaring differences when it comes to like living in New Zealand versus living in America? Whether that's culture, food, like way people act.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few. I'm kind of in the position. I love America. Like this, I really want this to be my home, and I love New Zealand as well. So I kind of have these like lenses where I'm able to see the good and bad in both, because I really do see them both as home. It's not like one over the other.
Right.
But the opportunities in America are far, like you're comparing country. One country's got 4 million, the other's got 335 or something, 33 or something million. So automatically people is going to be the first one. We've got a lot less people. But I think the big one that as a like a mental health aspiring sort of guy, the big one that I notice a lot is America's ability to talk more than New Zealand. New Zealand still has this issue of toxic masculinity. This kind of like, this is more so in men than women. But like, I was so blessed to grow up with a dad that didn't believe in that. He always was about speaking your mind, saying, wearing your heart on your sleeve. And I was so lucky for that, because there's a lot of men in New Zealand that kind of, the whole suck it up, get over it, you'll be fine culture is just rampant. And there's a reason why New Zealand leads the world in male suicides and teen suicides in general.
Really?
And it's because we're not allowed to talk. We're not allowed to talk about our feelings. It's not cool. It's and the other thing is we talk about tall poppy syndrome, which basically what that is basically chopping people down when they start succeeding. And it's terrible. We don't build each other up. When you see like me putting myself out there on a podcast and like starting something on my own, I'm telling you now, there's a handful of people in New Zealand going, well, I don't know why Tay's starting a podcast. It's kind of weird. What's he got to say? Like they just like enjoy like chopping people down. And that's not everyone. There's a population. I'm not saying it's everyone. There's a ton of really successful people that put themselves out there and other people that hype them up. It's not everyone. But there's a population, and I think it's changing over time with social media and everything. People are just getting used to seeing other people put them out there and growing up and just getting over it. But as far as like culture, that I noticed those two. The positives, New Zealand's super laid back. Like as people, we're really chill, as in the sense of like we don't let that much for us, which is like can obviously be a good and bad thing. But the opportunities are just way more vast over here in America. Like you just got so many people hiring. You've got so many industries. The money over here, I feel like everyone's got money. And businesses are huge over here. It's just like a lot more opportunities for people. And I think that's why this is kind of the land of opportunity. There's a reason why America gets that nickname. It's a different culture. And I love it over here. I think a part of me was more, I think Dad always says that in a past life I was American, so I kind of adopted the culture over here pretty quickly. And the other thing is that like when you move to a different country, you have to accept that you're moving to a different country. My biggest pet peeve is foreigners living in America that bitch about America. I'm like, I don't mean to say like that if you don't like it, go home thing, because like that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's negatives to everything. I don't love everything about America, but I love a lot of things. And I came over here with a super open mind. Like, this is where I am. If this is how they do it here, then this is how I do it now. Then I'm not coming over here to change how Americans do it. I've got to
Yeah.
adapt. And so I think that helped a lot for me to get used to the culture here and kind of come in and just go, if that, like, I was kind of an open, kind of a sponge. Like, as soon as I got told that, oh yeah, in America, this is how we do that, I'm like, cool, and that's how I do it now. Like, I'm not fighting it. I'm not going to come over here and be like, well, this is how they should do it.
Right. You talked about toxic masculinity, and that's something that I think is, I mean, it may be more rampant there, but even in the United States, it's something where it's like, and even for me to start this podcast, if you listen to the very first one, it was like, look, I'm doing this because not a lot of people could see know the authentic side of me. And that's partly, dude, because I didn't show it to them or anybody else. Because it's like you have that ego or those things in the back of your mind. They're like, what are people going to think about this? Are people going to judge me? Are people not going to like this? Like, but at the end of the day, you can't have that mindset because, one, even if you did it or not, people are always going to say stuff about you, good and bad. So, I mean, you can't control that. The only thing you could do is put out in the world what you want to put out in the world. And I mean, I think that's a big thing. And it seems simple, but it's really complex when it comes to people wanting to do things and then being afraid to do them or being afraid to speak up because of, certain social norms, or they weren't raised that way, where a father, like you said, you had the blessing of having a dad who, showed emotion towards you. And I think, and on my end, I did too. My dad was one of those guys who would like watch a sappy commercial and I'd like look over and this dude would like be tearing up. Like, what are you? At the same time though, he had a fuse, like you didn't want to mess with him. So like there's that side of like, you can still be a man and provide for your family and be a hard ass, but you can also have that tender, loving side that isn't, you don't need to look at that as something that's weakness. Like vulnerability in a man is not a weakness. And I think that is something that's, it's a strength. It's a strength. And I think that people look at sometimes a man being vulnerable and like emotional in a way as a weakness. And I think that that's something that is slowly dissipating a little bit, but and it won't ever go away because there'll always be that stigma. But I hope that, people start wising up to that a little bit.
Oh, 100%. And I like you said, it's absolutely a strength to be able to put yourself out there and not care about what people think. Like you don't see anybody that's super successful or living their dream going, oh, I hope someone doesn't say something bad. Like if you look at all the people you look up to, I guarantee there's a population of people that don't like them. Like I'm sure you've said like, oh, I don't know, Joe Rogan, for example. I enjoy watching his podcast, but I know for a fact there is a huge number of people that hate him. Like you can't please everyone. And until you fully understand that, then you're going to continue to hide and pull yourself back from your own potential. And I was talking last night to a friend of mine, Khalil, who he'll probably listen to this as well. And we were talking about being vulnerable and showing your authenticity and how much further that would take you in life. And we were talking about a seminar I went to in Indianapolis early February, and how there was about 200 people there from all walks of life around America, but they all work within college athletics. And it's kind of like they handpick people you apply, and they handpick like basically the best of the best to come out here to Indianapolis. And it was just so interesting, the people, how they would behave, because we went out one night, we went to this bar, and everyone was totally different than how we were in the boardroom. And we were talking about how it doesn't need to be like that. Like me and Khalil clicked really quickly because like as soon as we met each other, like we kind of like put down our walls. Like you could tell like our veils were down. We were just like, what's up, bro? Are you good? Like, and we like clicked immediately because we weren't like all stiff. Like, hi, my name's Tay. I'm from Arizona State. Like it wasn't like stuff like that. We're like, oh, this guy's dope. Like, what's up, bro? You good? What like? Do you like we're eating lunch? So I was like, oh, you like that stuff? That's dope. Like I made that at home last night, kind of thing. Like you immediately just start this casual conversation and put your walls down rather than caring like oh, Khalil's going to think I'm a weird person. Like, no, you just be you. And we were talking about how the people that were just themselves made far more connections. And by the end of the week, we had like this massive group of friends that were all the same like-minded people. And then there was a population of people who they may have been introverts. I don't mean to like talk down on people, but didn't put themselves out there and didn't show their authentic self. And as a result, didn't make the same connections. So, I mean, that we were talking about just in general, it comes back to that toxic masculinity where you want to put on this mask and behave a certain way because that's how men behave. And I don't think that there's there's certain things you've got to do to be a man, but I don't think it's mutually exclusive. Like there's some things, like you said with your dad crying about over a commercial, nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having emotion.
Yeah.
And
it's human. It makes us human.
Human. That's what I was going to say when you were talking before. But you're not, just because you're a man doesn't mean you're not a human.
We all have hearts at the end of the day. But yeah, I'm going to plug a book here. Lewis Howes, he actually has his own podcast. It's very successful called School of Greatness. But he wrote a book called Masks of Masculinity, and it's very good. I saw myself all through it, So it was one of those ones that really helped me like take a step back, look in the mirror like, damn, Mason, you do this one and this one and this one. Like, he talks about, success, money, girls, just stuff that guys deal with that they're like, that when maybe they're around other guys and they're wanting to sound cool or whatever that may be, So I think that's a really good book. It's Mask of Masculinity by Lewis Howes. But yeah, it's a really good book. And I just think that that's a important topic for men, and especially, young men growing up, like who they want to be. Like, you may not have a family yet, but guess what? Like, you're going to have a wife, hopefully, maybe if you want, you're going to have kids. What are you going to be able to look back and like, are you going to be proud of that person you were back then for, your family now?
Absolutely. So, and you kind of alluded to something really important there as well, saying that you're reading the book and you saw things that you were like, damn, Mason, I do that. That self-awareness is so important. And I think a lot of people forget about that, but being able to check yourself and sit back and be like, I'm doing something. Why am I doing something? Or noticing you're making errors or saying things and you're like, why? If you continue to keep asking why, you're going to benefit yourself so much, because being able to read a book and say, damn, I do that. That's me. Did he just describe me? And being able to do that's huge, because that's the first step to being able to make repairs. And so that self-awareness is key. And I'm impressed that you're able to read that and notice it, because a lot of people continue putting their mask up and read and go, never done that. I'd never do that.
I mean, I feel like if you're searching for that wisdom and like you're going to spend the time and read the book, then you're searching for yourself to be better when you're done with it, right? You're not just going to read the book to like, oh, I'm bored, I'm going to read this book and waste my time. Like, sure, people read fictional books and stuff, but if you're picking up a book like that, you want to have taken something by the end of however long it took you to read. So that's another thing that I always encourage, is just like always be searching for wisdom, There's so many things that you don't know. And that was like my biggest thing too. Part of why I started the show was like, dude, I don't know all these answers. Like, I have a good foundation of stuff. I do a little extra research than the average person maybe, but it's like, this is why I wanted to do this, so that everyone can come on and, grab a piece of wisdom from someone, whether that's something that you said or I said. And I mean, it's huge, man. Building the BA family. If y'all are still listening, go check out on Apple Podcasts. Go like it, subscribe, comment, all those interactions. Yep.
There's no way they're not listening.
All those interactions, if they made it this far. I don't know. How far are we in? We're rocking pretty good. Well, okay. So this is something I like to ask too. What is your definition of success? Because obviously that's, a wide variety of things. Could be a wide variety of things. And people say, oh, I just want to be successful. Well, what the hell is success to you is not success to me. So what's your definition of success?
You're about to get me on a tangent. I hope you're ready. because I love this question as well. So for me, I kind of have I haven't heard many others have this sort of logic on the idea of success. Because for me, success is achieving the pinnacle of something you're not naturally good at. And so, for me, rugby was second nature. I've played it since I was 4. It's our culture in New Zealand. It's pretty much all we knew how to do. I breathe as well as I can play rugby, and
Right.
so it's one of those things that's so normal to me that going pro didn't feel like success. Like, being paid to play rugby wasn't really success because I don't want to say it was easy, but it was easier than a lot of things. Now, for me, I was a terrible student. I can't do math to save my life. I like getting through high school and then my degree was a grind. Like I had to put hours in because I'm not naturally smart. And it wasn't like one of those things that worked well for me. I couldn't just pick up a book. I didn't have a photographic memory. I didn't have any of that. I had to like hustle to get good grades. And now I'm graduating with my master's. And that graduation, now that I don't get it because of coronavirus, but being able to graduate with my master's is huge for me because I've had to hustle for that. And so my goal is to get my PhD in psych. That's like the pinnacle for me because
That's awesome.
Education or academia isn't easy to me. It's something that I've got to grind at, and being able to work for that and it not come naturally, that's success to me, is putting yourself out there and doing things that you like. I enjoy it. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy though. So I love learning new things. I love picking up different things, but it doesn't mean that I'm good at it. I have to work for it. And so for me, that pinnacle of what success is to me is achieving the top of something that you're not naturally good at. Nothing to take away from professional athletes or professional musicians, something that came easy to those people. I'm not knocking that. It's still an amazing feat because you've got to put in so much work.
Yeah, because to anybody, like anyone that's reached that pinnacle of a professional athlete at their level, they had some God-given talent. Absolutely. 110%. They are above average. They're in the 1 percentile of athletic ability. But they also worked super hard because there was that other 1% that was right there with them, and they didn't work hard enough, and then they didn't get. And then there's those guys who are like in the 2% or 3%, and they just worked harder than the guys up top, and they got their chance. So, I mean, those dudes still put in so much work.
100%. I'm definitely not taking away from that. I think for me, just my success is going to be a PhD over playing professional sports. Just because of how difficult it is for me naturally. But so that's how I define success. Again, I appreciate the people that don't put it to their career as well. Like a lot of people believe success is having a loving family or a connected family, things like that. I love that too. Having a loving relationship with their spouse is another one. I love that. It's so easy when people talk about success. You talk about money and fame and getting X amount of receiving yards, whatever it be. I really appreciate those who look at it at like more extrinsic purposes as far as relationships or giving back. Obviously if that's success, then I appreciate that as well.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's important to note that it's like money is something that we all need, and it's something that we're all at the end of the day chasing to an extent, but don't let your passion and what you're trying to portray, don't let money overtake that. Because I think if you follow a passion, people will see that in the way that it comes off, and that's attractive to them because they know it's actually something that you care about and you're actually putting time into. And that in turn will turn into money eventually. If you put enough time and effort and work and you take the right steps, and obviously there's certain things that you need to do along the way, but don't make that your sole purpose,
Right. And anyone listening that about going to the sports industry, you've nailed it on the head. We don't get paid in sports unless you're in the top echelon. There's no money in sports. And so that's the hard truth. If you don't love it, and if you're not coming home from work every day fulfilled, get out of the industry, because there's places you can go to make money and it's not in sports. And that's to your point. if you are passionate about it, then you make it last, then you hang in there. And at the top, you make money. Like there's money in sports, but it's just like,
Yeah.
it's hidden. It's like hidden in this top percentage.
Right.
And so to get there, you've got to be passionate, because it's years of literally working for not much and doing things you love. And like the last couple of years at ASU is a prime example. I don't get fiscally rewarded for not much at all. And so that's why I'm serving drinks as well. But shit, I wouldn't change it for the world, because I've loved working with the guys and girls at ASU and being able to give back and spend time with them, create those relationships. I've loved every second of it. But yeah, there's a reason why I'm serving drinks. It's not making money at ASU.
Yeah, man. For those who don't know, I was a sports management major at Lindenwood University. I actually started as a journalism major. Print journalism was kind of dying off a little bit, and it was, social media was already popular, but it was still on just a skyrocket rise. And I kind of saw that, and I just didn't really know. It was something I was good at, but I didn't really see where I could put myself in it. So that's when I went to the sports management. And I will say it's a grind on the way, but for anyone who's passionate about sports, which I think it's definitely one of my passions, it's a cool industry. And it's a cool avenue for sure.
Oh yeah. And you've got to find like your niche as well, because like I'll happily say I'm a terrible salesman. I can't sell you anything. And selling tickets at the Clippers was not my thing. And I can build relationships, but I can't take your money. I'm really bad at that part. And I think part of it was like I was selling tickets, so I wasn't like passionate about what I was selling. And
right.
I actually remember my first sale at the Clippers, I had to wait till Friday. It was like a Wednesday or something. And the person on the phone was like, can you wait till Friday? That's when I get my paycheck and I can pay. And I was like, my first thought's like, man, if you're waiting for your paycheck, don't spend it on tickets. Like, this is not where your money needs to be going if you don't have the disposable income to spend money on tickets. Please save it. And I couldn't do that.
You're like, no, dude, actually just kidding. Yeah, I don't want your money.
Scratch the sale. But it was my first sale. I needed it. And so I had to be cutthroat and be like, yeah, man, for sure. I'd love to speak to you on Friday. I'll give you a call back. But like my heart broke. I was like, you dumbass, don't be spending money on tickets.
How good of a feeling was that though at the same time? When you get your first sale, you're like, yes.
Oh, yeah. No, I was stoked to get it in the end. But I just felt awful. And I was like, this is not my industry. I can't be here taking people's money that definitely should be spending it on milk and bread over going to Clippers games.
Man, that's just so crazy too, how, and I hate to talk about this, but I'm going to anyways. It's the NCAA March Madness not happening.
Yeah. Crazy.
And the NBA season gone. Now it might go over into, I hope it doesn't go
Don't
over.
Say it. Don't say it.
No, please. Don't do it.
No, I'm
we're not even going to put that. Yeah, we're not even going to say it because it's not happening. Can't happen.
Yeah, we're good. We're going to play it anyway.
Just think if you're a senior, though, and all of a sudden, boom, season done.
Yeah.
Like you have all this momentum building up to that moment in the tournament. And you've put in all the hours and you guys have watched all this film and you think your team really has a shot and it's your last year. And then all of a sudden, boom, gone. That just shows you the whole identity thing. Because then what about those guys that, you can get another year, but what if they're like, no, I need to go work. I need to make money. Like I can't do this another year.
There's so much that goes into it. And like speaking as obviously I should disclaim none of my opinions in here is the opinion of ASU. I'm my own person. This is not a shared opinion, but as an employee of ASU, I know firsthand this is so much more complex than people think. And what's frustrating is I can't stomach a uneducated opinion. And the amount of people on social media saying they should do this, you should do that. Like you need to sit down with the books, look them over, and then tell me what you should do. Is it noble to give another year? And they have actually, as of like 2 days ago, they've given another year. 100% it's noble. But what are the implications to that? And fiscally, 100%, it's going to be tough. You're taking money out of certain things we're not going to be able to build certain things. It's going to be slower. There's going to be a fiscal sort of waterfall down from this.
Right.
But the other thing is, how many decommits are we going to see now? There's countless people out there that have committed to, for the sake of argument, let's say ASU. They come in here next year. They're so excited. And then they get another year and they realize that senior that was about to leave is coming back. So I'm not going to have that starting position now. Do I still want to go there? So then you're going to look at the decommits through the roof. So recruiting departments are going to work round the clock to try to keep guys on or figure that part out. I feel terrible for recruiting departments right now because they don't know what's going to happen. But the freshmen coming in have to deal with it. And then you've got to look at money. Like I don't know if schools with the appropriate budget can pay for summer school and another year. Now, again, like I said, it's noble. Please, like I want them to do it. Like find that if they can sit down and have that conversation and try to find the money and move it around. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know where the money is and where it's going. I don't know. It's one of the things that like I don't know where the money is, and so I'm not going to pretend like I know what they should do. I know that in my heart, I want the seniors to have a proper senior year. I want them to have their senior night. I want them to be able to have that opportunity. But I don't know if they can, and that or I don't know now that they can. I don't know the repercussions of that and what's going to happen. So, like you said, it's scary. It would suck. I can't imagine getting ready to go to March Madness and having like an X team. Like this year's my year. Like we're going to be good.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and getting ready for the tournament. You're coming back from an injury, maybe this is showtime. You're feeling good. I played in the same situation before where you're like, oh, this is going to happen. And then next minute, because of no one's fault too. That's the other thing is like,
there's nothing you can do about it. It's just really hands up. Like
no one was ready for this, and you can knock administration from anywhere, but until you sit in their shoes, don't have an opinion. You don't know what it's like to be Mark Emmett at the NCAA trying to make these adjustments and try to decide what's best for student athletes, but what's best for employees. I know for me, job hunting in May, I'm struggling. Everyone's frozen hiring. Budgets have been cut. There's no money going around to pay me. So like Mark Emmett's got to think about student athletes, but what about young employees? What about senior executives that have got to take pay cuts when their daughter's starting at a new school and they can't afford to pay for that school anymore? So that daughter now doesn't get to go to school with her friends. She has to go to a different school and make new friends. These are implications people don't think about. They jump on Twitter and say, everyone should get a second year. But what does that, like, at what cost?
Yeah.
And people don't think about that kind of like
that's the whole everybody
effect.
Yeah. I'm not going to get into politics, but that's it's very political when it gets down to that. And that's, I mean, politics revolves around money. Sports at that level revolves around money. When that's that amount of money and those implications, there is a trickle down effect to everybody, and especially in a time like this, no one's seen anything like this before. So yeah, it's kind of crazy.
No one's prepared for it. Like no one, there was no outline. Like it wasn't like, oh, someone go get the coronavirus handbook. We'll see what we've designed to get ready for that. Like no one was prepared for this. And
tell you what, people will be ready now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, this won't happen again. There'll be things in place. If someone tells you, yo, we're going into lockdown in a couple of weeks, everyone's going to get their shit together. Someone's going to find, you're going to find your girlfriend to get quarantined with. You'll take care of all
I
of
saw
that.
something that said there's going to be a spike in babies and a spike in divorce.
It was in China. There's I read an article, which is probably the most uneducated thing I can say, but I read an article about how there was a divorce spike in China.
No, I mean, I believe it. I believe it. All these spouses actually have to spend time with each other now. So
especially the ones that are always on the road. Like think about people that
traveling,
like road scouts and stuff. They're now at home with their spouse 24/7.
Yeah, I saw this funny meme that said like, some of y'all picked the wrong person to quarantine with. Y'all about to be holding your farts in for 2 weeks. I was cracking up.
Gastrointestinal issues.
Yeah, like I'm sorry, but I'm letting them go. That's unhealthy.
Oh yeah, you've got to.
Yeah, sit at the other end of the room. Do something. Get some nose.
I hope you got a big house.
Yeah. But okay, so real quick, I wanted to touch on this. We kind of talked about the student athlete experience and everything, and how obviously money is at the focal point. what is your take on student athletes and getting paid? I know that there was some legislation around like recently about them being able to make money on their likeness and
Yeah.
image. What was that? I don't know if I.
Yeah, you're nailing it a little bit there. And it's, again, it kind of reverts back to what I was just talking about. It's such a complex topic that you can't really just say they should be paid. Like,
It's
okay,
yeah, it's so there's layers to
layers and
onion.
layers. And
Yeah.
again, disclaimer: this is not ASU's opinion. This is Tay Hawker's opinion. But I think they should be in a position where they can use their image for their own benefit. When I say that, I mean like when you're on Instagram and you get what's one of these companies that send out all their free shit, body detox tea and all that kind of stuff. I don't know what they are.
The
And they send
detox
out all the
smooth move tea.
yeah, that kind of stuff, or the teeth whitening, High Smile. I
Oh,
don't
the
know.
little like things you put in your
Yeah,
mouth.
and so they send you that package and you put it in and you take a photo and put it on your story and say use my discount code at Hawker20 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely, student athletes should be allowed to do that. It's that everyone else can, and they're using their likeness 100%. But
Right.
and there's not enough fiscal reconciliation or reciprocation, sorry, to warrant that being huge.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I saw Trevor Lawrence
Mhm.
and his girlfriend were putting together a fund that raised, I think, over $1 million
Yeah.
almost for COVID-19. And then NCAA came in and said like that they were
The
stepping across
NCAA
some line they were stepping across.
the NCAA released a statement to say that they didn't tell him to shut it down, but I didn't look into it, so I can't like, again, that was
Yeah, I
just
mean, neither did I. I saw a headline, read a little article, but
yeah.
I mean, you see stuff like that all the time. Like the one kid, I remember the story where he was a NCAA football player and had a YouTube channel that was very successful, and his YouTube channel was getting enough views where he was
Right.
YouTube was running ads, so he was getting paid. And then they said, "Hey, look, you can't keep doing your YouTube and play NCAA football." It's like, come on, man! Like, what is like
Yeah.
this dude could be a
And
like I don't know. It's
in that sense, like you're earning that money, like 100%. Running a YouTube is not easy. It
no.
takes videoing, editing, promoting, etc. Like you're earning that money, and I agree. He should have been able to get paid by that. The part where I have an issue with is the schools or the NCAA paying athletes directly. If they go out on their own and find their own payment, then I don't care about that. Yes, I acknowledge that brings in recruiting issues because you're going to get the car dealership that lives in Austin, Texas, that's going to contact every Longhorn recruit and say, hey, you want a new Ford Ranger or a F-150, then, come to Texas. I get that. That's going to happen, and I understand that.
That happens already.
It's the underbelly.
Yeah.
But I think like the NCAA and schools, that money doesn't actually exist. And I think people don't understand that there's no money to give. Like ASU athletics runs to break even. Like the money that they make goes back to facilities, benefits for student athletes, wages, etc. There's not like this little pool of money sitting in a bank account saying, oh, we
Just
could give,
pay
why don't we pay the
100
kids?
kids or 60
Right.
kids. Yeah.
And then the other thing is NCAA works essentially with the same way. They don't, yes, they're $1 billion business, but it's a non-profit, which sends all their money back to their member institutions. There's a reason why ASU can do all this shit. It's because the NCAA gives money, and the conferences aligned give money back to the schools to provide food, like various teaching as far as paying, like for us to be able to help them get ready for life after college, etc., or manage like we do seminars on toxic masculinity and things. We are able to do that because the NCAA gives us back. And so that money that goes to the NCAA from March Madness, from the CFP runs as a separate entity, so not them. But NCAA ran events, goes back to the NCAA, correct, but then it comes back to us to be able to fund sports like lacrosse and soccer and softball, who are non-revenue generating. Those sports all lose
Right.
money. So if you did pay athletes like a sum from the school or the NCAA, you're immediately kicking out all those non-profiting sports. So you'd be left with basketball, football, and in some cases baseball.
Right. And that's what
I
some
have an
people
issue
don't
with
get either. Like the
that.
revenue, obviously, when you're saying, oh, these schools are making so much. Yeah, those are the Division I schools. But the NCAA comprised D1, D2, D3. There's, hundreds and hundreds of other schools.
Yeah,
And then what about the sport? Like the sports, like women's sports isn't generating, and even those men's sports that aren't, your big time football, basketball, Division I programs. And
100%.
I'm sure some baseball programs can be revenue generating as well. I think a good solution would be to, like you said, don't pay them a check. Like, here's your check. You're getting your check to go to school, and that's coming from an athlete. I didn't play at the Division I level, so I didn't get a full ride. So I had majority of my school paid for through football and academics, but there was still a little out of pocket on my end. So that's coming from my perspective. But if you're a D1 athlete at that level, you're getting full ride. Like, they only give full rides. So my thing is, yes, you should be able to make money off of your likeness and image, which there's a million ways to do it, especially if you're a high profile athlete.
Yeah,
You look at like Johnny Manziel or something like that, or Tebow, or even like just someone who's a successful starting player on one of those teams. They have thousands and thousands and thousands of followers already.
100%.
So their, businesses are going to want to use them. People are going to want to run ads on their pages because, they get a lot of traffic or whatever. I mean, there's so many different ways, guest appearances. If someone wants to buy you a dinner, they should be able to buy you a dinner, like those kind
Yeah,
of things. But I kind of agree with you on, like, someone shouldn't just hand you a check. But if you have perks from being a football player, which there are, but guess what? You work your butt off too. The normal student population isn't waking up at 4:30 in the morning to make sure they're at weights at 5.
right.
Going home, shower, eat real quick, get to class at 7 or 8, and then have meetings at noon, back to class. Then the whole schedule. It's
Yeah,
practice at 3. Then you get home at 5, 6, 7. You got to eat. Then you got it's 8 o'clock, and you got 3 hours of homework, and you got to get up at 4:30. So there is work that's put in, so they should be able to benefit from the perks.
yeah. And I totally agree with that. And on top of that, those perks that you're talking about, for the most part, they've got to go out and earn as well. You've still
Yeah.
got to market yourself. You've still got to understand how to best carry yourself. And you're probably going to learn a lot of things that you can carry into the real world by doing that. Because if you're an idiot on social media, if you're carrying yourself in a poor way, or if you don't have that charisma, then people are like if I'm going back to a car salesman, if I own a car dealership and I'm looking at athletes for me to bring in to post about us or something, I'm not going to bring the kid that's had the last 7 days at a party during his off season.
Right.
So, because I don't want that image assigned with my company either. So it then means that athletes have to carry themselves in a certain manner to be able to get the most out of their exposure or their platform. And so I think it can be beneficial. You've just got to be prepared for it. And that's the other thing, is make sure that people know like it's one of these things that the compliance departments are going to have to sit down and weed this out to make sure that it's done right. Because like, I don't want to see that underbelly kind of get exposed. Like, those rules need to still be in place. You can't give some schools an added benefit because they've got the biggest donors. Like, then it just becomes a money race. And I don't agree with that. It needs to be, the school offers the best facilities, the best coaching, the best management, in the sense that, and that's what we do here at ASU. We run the sort of pro model, having Herm at the helm, Antonio Pearson, Kevin Mawai, like these kind of guys. Like, people come here because of the coaching. Like, you're getting taught by some of the greatest football players to ever walk on a field every day. And so that's why players come here. But if then we're competing against Alabama, who's got Nick Saban's team of elites there, I'm assuming it exists. And so then we're just playing a money grab. And like, I don't want to get into that sense, but I do think, like, being able to use your social media presence, start a YouTube. Man, people would love to watch a YouTube of a day in the life of a D1 player. Like, I mean, I'm around it, but I still would love to see what Joe Burrow's up to for a day as an LSU fan. Like, I would love to see that kind of stuff. So there's an industry for it.
Were you
and
at?
Like you said, a lot of the articles online that you see are like the real dumb situations where you're just like, why would you tell them off for that? Like, that's fine. That's kind of what you see every day, which sucks because you're right. That's bullshit.
Yeah. Were you at Arizona State, or how long have you been there? Because one of my buddies, Renell Wren.
Yeah, I know Renell.
Yeah, you laugh because he's a goofball.
Yeah, I
Like,
love Renell. Yeah.
yeah. So Renell, when I moved to St. Louis, my freshman year, I played for AU team called the St. Louis Eagles, which they're now the Bradley Beal Elite because Brad was a 17U when I was a 15U.
Yeah.
And Renell, we were at tryouts, and like it's hands down the best AAU team in the St. Louis area. So, you got a competitive tryout going. And Renell was there, right? So you got all these like skilled players, and Renell comes in. This dude had the goggles on. He's, like I said, 15U, freshman in high school. Just probably like 6'4", 235, 240, but just rocked up.
Yeah.
Like just big as hell, looking like Terry Crews. And we're layup lines. He takes a few dribbles and jumps from like a step in, two-hand, just boom, just rocks it. And he's 240, so there's like some force behind it. And I remember looking like, who is this guy? Because he didn't have like, basketball is very skilled, like post moves and stuff. But, he didn't have that. He just wanted to get in you and just dunk on you.
Yeah.
So
I'll send him this clip. I'll tell him.
I mean, yeah, skill-wise, I mean, this dude was a project, but he was so athletically gifted.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking he's going to be a hell of a football player. And then sure enough,
with the Cincinnati Bengals.
yeah, sure enough, he started, because we were getting recruited at the same time. We were going to a lot of same camps and stuff. And I remember our senior year, I think at that time he was like 6'5", 260, probably like 260, playing DN for Lutheran North, and was running a 4.5.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoo! Because now, he's playing for the Bengals, doing good. Shout out Renell, man. Love you, brother. But yeah, we used to have some funny times in the van.
Yeah. He came up to the office the other day, probably like right before this stuff went down. Him and Doug Subel as well. He was another guy that was on the team. And like, you forget how big they are, and then they come and tap you on the shoulder. And
I haven't seen him in a while, but
what's up, Renell?
Yeah, he's like 300 plus now, right? I mean, I haven't seen him in a while because he's a 3-tech now. But dude, that's awesome. Yeah, I love that kid. He's always a good dude. So I think that about wraps it up. What always, like, I always like to do this, end the show like this. What is one thing, I know we touched a lot of topics, but what is one thing that, you want to leave with the listener? Like one thing that you want to leave with them, little nugget that they can take, implement in their life to help them.
Yeah, I think for sure, I don't know what it is these days, but one thing I really respect in people, and we alluded to it a lot, but talking about their vulnerability and allowing yourself to show your authentic self is something that if everyone did it, we would live in a happy world. If people didn't play games, people didn't just like hide who they really were and allowed themselves to be them and speak their truth and be honest and appreciate themselves. And it's not an easy thing to do. I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend like being yourself is easy. And it sounds dumb, but it's not. There's so many factors out there in the world that makes it so tough to just be you. And because you want to protect yourself. You don't want to get hurt. You don't want to let yourself out there and then you regret it. So I think if I could like give anyone a goal, there's lots of things you can be doing in quarantine, but tangible things. But if I could give anyone a goal, it would be to work on who you are and showing your authentic self. Because you would go so much further in life if you showed your real self. Because one thing, like I talked about with my conversation with Khalil, if you let your walls down in any situation, this could be boyfriend, girlfriend, if you have certain relationships with your parents or siblings or best friends or just any friend, any acquaintance, if you let your walls down, those people are more likely to do the same, and you can make genuine connections. And it's scary. People are like, my walls are up. My walls are up so high. Like, I've been in a bad breakup. My walls are up. You hear it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But letting your walls down and showing your authentic self and being vulnerable can be so beneficial to you as a person. So I think that would be my biggest takeaway is learn to love you, and then don't give a fuck if others don't.
There it is.
Just
You
put
heard it.
yourself out there.
You heard it. And that's so true. And as someone who's first, this was like my dive off the deep, this project was to put myself out there like that. So I can tell you it's empowering when you do it. You'll see who your real friends are that take you for that authentic self, and you'll be able to weed out the people who, don't appreciate your authentic self because you're acting different around them than who you actually are inside. And you don't want, at the end of the day, you don't want those people. You don't want to be hanging around people that you just have to like watch yourself because you're not totally, being comfortable in your own shoes. So, hey man, I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Tay Hawker, everybody. Bottle Opener podcast is coming soon, so be on the lookout for that. I'm sure I will be retweeting some stuff coming to him. And Breathin Air family, thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Breathin Air, where everyday action meets extraordinary mindset. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. Hit me up on Facebook or Twitter or just newly made Instagram. This is the first time, guys. It's a big step for me.
He's got an Instagram.
Yeah. So Tay tried it earlier. If you search Mason Bendigo, my thing pops up, but it's Breathin Air podcast is what it is. And I just put one of our little audiograms for last week's episode up. But yeah, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Snapchat is Mason_Bendigo. So all of it's basically just search my name. And Tay, throw your tags out there for everybody real quick.
I got to double check. Instagram, tay.hawker, and then the Bottle Opener podcast, all one word, is the Instagrams. And then Twitter is, I think, Tay Hawker.
Beautiful.
Tay Hawker, one word.
All righty. Thank you all so much, Tay. Thank you, man, for coming on. And
appreciate you. Love you, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Love you all. See ya.